I kept working in the bar till I was about 7 months pregnant, and then I waited until my son was 5 months old, and then I started working on the ambulance. It just felt like it would never end. And like every time I tried to think that I was like setting myself up for success or putting us in a better position, it just didn't work out. All you have to ask yourself is there anything about this action, about what I'm doing, that does not respect my life or the life of other people? There is no such thing as, I didn't do it yesterday, I didn't do it this morning, so I can't do it now. It's literally this very moment, every moment is a new opportunity.
From SGI USA, I'm Cassidy Bradford, and this is Buddhability, the weekly series where I talk with Buddhists from all walks of life about the power we each have to change our lives and the world around us. Hi, Cassidy from Buddhability here. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe. It'll help the show out, and you'll never miss an episode. If you want more Buddhability content, you can subscribe to our email newsletter in the link below. We put out great content every week. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Buddhability, Kaitlin. Thank you for joining me at the start of the new year. It's great to have you here. So I always have my guests just introduce themselves, so you can share just a little bit about who you are and some of your life growing up. So I'll let you take it away.
Hi, I'm Kaitlin. I am 30 years old. I'm from Gretna, Louisiana, which, if you're not familiar, is just the part of the greater New Orleans area.
Okay.
I currently work full-time as a firefighter operator, and I work part-time in EMS, and I'm also in school right now. I didn't grow up in this Buddhist practice, but I joined when I was about 17 years old.
Can you, every time I hear somebody that starts practicing Buddhism when they're like a teenager or a kid, I'm blown away, because when I was a teenager, even if I was struggling with stuff, I was like, not about it, you know? So to like have that kind of initiative to really be seeking something is really, just really interesting to me. So can you tell me like why you started practicing?
So, I mean, I think I guess had kind of a seeking spirit, or wanted to be a part of a religion, some sort of sense of community, something that I thought aligned with my spiritual beliefs, at least that I had thus far. And I think also on the opposite end, from some people who grow up really kind of pushed into a certain religion or practice. I kind of was the opposite of that. I went to Catholic school and Lutheran school, which is like really common down here, especially Catholic schools. So I think I naturally kind of leaned that way at first, just because, we participated in all of the services and all of that stuff. I actually had the opportunity to live overseas in India with my dad when I was about 13. Funny enough, because a lot of people think that I became Buddhist when I went to India, but I was Christian at that time, and I actually went to church and went to Bible study and all of that.
Wow.
But India actually does have a lot of Christian people, there. So I was really seeking something and wanting to be involved. But after I came back from living outside of the country, I really started to kind of like open up my view of the world, especially having lived in another country and way of culture and life, and kind of came to realize that while there was a lot of things about Christianity that I liked and that I did align with, there was always a certain fundamental things, whether it was certain denominations of Christianity or other religions, that there was always a stopping point. There was a hard stop once I feel like I had a little more sense of self, where I said, you had me until. And I just didn't agree with me. It wasn't for me. And so my mom who, with a little bit of backstory, I hadn't lived with, and I haven't lived with since I was like 15. We kind of got into a big fight. I moved out. I never moved back in. We maintained a relationship, but obviously there was a rift there. So that, on top of already being a teenager, not wanting to listen to your parents, when my mom said, hey, you remember our friend from forever ago? Well, she introduced me to this Buddhism, and I think you'd like it. I'm like, okay. I don't want to hear anything that you have to say about this.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll like it. But, eventually a little more encouragement from our friend and such. I attended a meeting, and this Buddhist practice was the first time I attended a meeting. So basically like a neighborhood kind of gathering of other Buddhists where we talk about this practice and our experiences and prayers about things and study stuff like that. And so when I'm starting to learn more about this practice, I was like, wow, this is the first time. I was always I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, I'm waiting to hear the thing that I don't agree with. Not that I don't like, but just that I don't agree with. That's a full stop. Can't do it. Not for me. I can't commit to that. And it just never happened. It still hasn't happened. But at that time, I don't know what my time frame on it was, but it wasn't very much. And I just said, okay. And I think also the sense that there's not very many, if any, rules. And I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day, and I think it's a difficult concept to grasp when you come from certain other religions. And so I think that there are values that we place a strong importance on, and those dictate what would be rules. I really liked that, because instead of saying, well, you can't do this, you can't do this, it's more about, the dignity and respect for human life, for our life, and for everyone else's. So instead of saying that something is just across the board something you should or shouldn't do, it's not that hard actually to figure out if in this Buddhist practice you should do it or not, because all you have to ask yourself is there anything about this action, about what I'm doing, that does not respect my life or the life of other people?
Wow. It's interesting because, like, hearing you, I'm thinking, like, oh, you seem like you've always been somebody that's been like strong. And I think the incredible thing about this Buddhism is that, like, questioning things is totally embraced, right? Like, people can be like, we should ask as many questions as we have. There should be no, like, because somebody said it was that way, right? Like, being able to focus on, like, what are the values and philosophy of Buddhism, and then you make the decision, whether something is right or wrong, or whether you should do that. And I think that's so empowering, and I think a lot of people really appreciate that about Buddhism. So, once you started practicing, what kinds of things were you chanting about? And, like, did you notice any changes in your life after you started practicing?
I remember, I have a picture of it somewhere. I had a paper, like, on my wall at my dad's house. So I put, like, goals on. And so that was, like, my first goals. They're like, write it down. You got to write down your goals. I had, like, sticky notes, too, that I had done, in my room at the time, and on my mirror of, like, little reminders and, like, affirmations and things like that. I do remember a couple of things that, like, were important or big to me at the time was that I really wanted us to win a volleyball game. We were on a straight losing streak. Yeah, it was rough. I think the previous year, because this was my second year on the team, I think the previous year we won 0 games. Yeah.
That's rough.
And I went to a really small high school. If we wanted to have a team, sometimes we even had to ask people to please play and please join the team so that those of us who wanted to or could have a team.
Could, yeah.
And, you know, the jurisdictions and the high schools you play against is that we played against a lot of teams and a lot of wonderful, very athletic and talented young ladies who like played club year round or had been playing since they were 8 or 10 or 12. And I played at the playground by my house like once in 4th grade. And so fast forward to junior year of high school, I'm on the team. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. I've never played volleyball before, really, but I'm going to do it.
Wow.
And, you know, your size isn't everything, but volleyball tends to be a more height-inclined sport. I'm sure I was about as tall as I was ever going to get that I am now. 5'7", on the short end for volleyball players, mind you.
Wow.
I was about the tallest person on my team, or second tallest. We had a lot of 5-footers. Really, really little ladies. So you combine all this together, it was really like disheartening, struggling. It was character building. You know, these are obstacles, as we call them, challenges to overcome. But we did win actually one game, and that's all I wanted. I was like, senior year, I said, we're going to win one game. And like to the last final score, final set of the match where we won one game. Yeah, so that was a big deal. And then I remember, actually, I think it was probably in the end good for myself and my practice, but I went on this mission trip with high school, which thinking back now, I do think for it being a Christian-based school and all, that they were pretty like accepting and open-minded to me because they knew I wasn't Christian.
Yeah.
They knew I was Buddhist, and it was a mission trip. So there's religion stuff, but there's also like English classes that we would help with, like cleaning up at this camp. So there's a lot of just like community work involved. But I was like, I want to go to Costa Rica. There's no rules that say you have to be Christian, and so they let me do it. They let me join the mission trip. But we had to raise money. The way we raised money for the majority, there was a couple of like fundraising events, but the majority was car washes every Sunday. So that meant that I couldn't go to the New Orleans Buddhist Center on Sundays. And I was very disheartened and frustrated about that because I was like new to my practice-ish. And I really wanted to go and be around that community and be around other youth that were Buddhist, but I had to participate in this. I still think it was good for me overall. And Daisaku Ikeda talks about having dialogue with people of other religions and, the values and things that we want to have in our lives and other people's lives, even if they don't take up this Buddhism as their religion. So I still think that my heart and my mind and purpose of wanting to go on this trip and participate was in the right place and maybe taught me a little bit of that, but it was definitely a challenge at first.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're like first, starting up your practice and like you're excited and you want to be involved, and then to be like, I have to do these like car washes every Sunday. And, but I think it is interesting, like the, like interfaith aspect. And I think for a lot of us that are Buddhist, because it's not the dominant, religion or practice in the US, we kind of have those, dialogues or interactions no matter what, because so many people practice different religions. So it's a good foundation to have. Now I have some questions kind of like moving forward a little bit to like your early 20s, because I think a lot of our, conversation today is tied up in like career and family and like building your life out is a good way to describe it. So maybe to start out, if you could just tell me like, after you finished high school, like what did the next couple of years look like for you?
So after high school, I kind of did the typical thing a lot of people do, which is I didn't want to go to college. Parents wanted me to, so I went. Obviously, that didn't last. I dropped out. So then I was just waitressing. That didn't last very long. Then I was working in the bars on Bourbon. And so that included a whole other lifestyle in and of itself.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have a whole lot of direction, focus, you know. And previously, rewind a tiny bit to when I was a teenager, I told my mom that I wanted to become an EMT firefighter. And she said, no, absolutely not. Forget about it. Way too dangerous. And I was distracted, other things going on. You don't know what you're talking about, Mom. But eventually, didn't really care, whatever. And so then, when I'm starting to think about what I want to do, I'm kind of like circling back to this idea of what I originally wanted to do. And when we went to take a family trip, Christmas Day 2013, we were driving back from Florida because we had taken a trip there, and we got into a pretty bad car accident. And so in that car accident, everyone was okay. But I wound up losing control of the car. I flipped it on the left side. It slid down the road. My arm drug on the road. Whole big kind of disaster, which is where I have
scary.
You see it? I have a scar
Oh,
on
wow.
my arm.
Yeah.
This is kind of, I don't know, you can see it. It's kind of colored different, like light blue. But
that's so scary.
That's where I have that from. And so when all of that was going on and there's all these people, also I still remember my mom wanting to stress to me after this accident because she wanted to make sure that we chanted before we got on the road for safe travels. And I remember her wanting to emphasize to me, we are actually so protected because we chanted about this. And if you think about it, even though it was a pretty bad accident, when the car flipped on the side and it slid down the road, it slid perfectly into the emergency lane so that it wasn't in the way of traffic. And then immediately, like, somebody opened the trunk of the car so that we could all climb out from the accident. And my little brother was laying down in the back seat and he didn't have a seatbelt on. So he flew forward to where I was and kind of like rolled around on my arm some. And so he had like a similar injury, but not really bad. And, if we would have crashed differently, that could have been really bad. And then when I step out of the vehicle, first in the shoulder of the road, I see like my phone, my sister's phone, and my wallet, like right there on the side, in the road.
Just
and
perfectly
then when
waiting
I go
for
to
you.
I know. When I go to walk over, there's all these different people that had pulled over, and there's like a military first responder, an off-duty ER nurse, and a doctor who was all driving like right behind us and had pulled over. So, we talk about like protective forces of the universe and the things we chant for, everything being so mystic. It was like, wow, I see what she's saying. Like everything's so perfectly aligned that even in this like horrible situation, everyone was still, generally okay.
Yeah.
The fire department was the first ones to show up, and then the ambulance. And I just remember, like, there's all this chaos and everything going on. My brother was really upset. This was just going on in my mind at the time. I was like, wow, Christmas Day. They're at work, and they're coming and showing up to this. And they're just, like, handling it and doing everything that needs to be done. I was like, this is cool. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And so it's kind of like in a weird way, really, that accident kind of pushed me to circling back to my passion and what I had an interest in and really wanted to do. So then I started EMT school while I was working in the bar. And I kind of took it seriously, but not 100%. I was still kind of in that partying young lifestyle.
Yeah.
And waited too long to take my national registry test after I didn't pass it the first time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take this class again. And then the second time, I remember my instructor asking me why I was back. She's like, you got an A in this class. Why are you back? I said, because I waited too long. She said, I better not see you in this class again. And close to the end, or like partially through that class, I found out I was pregnant with my son. And she knew, because I was normally smoking on the smoke breaks and I wasn't. And she was like, are you pregnant? I said,
oh my gosh.
And she's like, well, finish this class and focus, you've got it. And so I finished that class, and I did go on to take my national registry after, spoiler alert, I passed.
Yay!
And so that was like such a huge victory for me. And I kept working in the bar till I was about 7 months pregnant. Oof. And it took the last 2 months off. And then I waited until my son was 5 months old, and then I started working on the ambulance. When I became pregnant with my son, not that I didn't take things so seriously before, but I think it just like lit a fire under me. It fast-tracked everything to where, before I was like kind of following my passion or what I thought might be my mission, but I kind of wasn't really totally focusing on it. And, for some people, for me, when you're going to have a kid, when you're going to have a baby, it's like, I don't have time to play around. I need to get it together like yesterday. I've got to do things. I got to be on the right path. This is not just about me anymore.
How old were you at that point? Like when you had passed the national registry and then you were about to give birth?
I think I was 22.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're like living this rhythm of working in the service industry, which like I've had many friends that work in service, and my understanding is like you're kind of operating in your own ecosystem, because you're on totally different hours.
It very much can be its own bubble.
Yeah. So you're like living in that kind of world, and then okay, I'm gonna pursue this path. Oh, okay, and now I'm also gonna be a mom. Okay, so when you found out you were pregnant and finishing up the class and then taking the exam and then eventually, starting work, what kinds of things were you chanting about at the time? And like, what was the emotional experience? Did you just feel like, okay, I gotta lock in?
To be honest, I was emotionally all over the place.
Yeah.
There was so much going through my mind. Right before I found out I was pregnant, I was partying hard at Mardi Gras. It was Mardi Gras time. And I didn't know at the time. And then me and my partner at the time, my son's father, had broken up. So it was a lot for young me. Yeah. So because that was the first, I would call, and only serious relationship at that point in time. And we had been together since I was 19. So 3 years. And so that was like a lifetime for me. And I was unhappy. There was various issues. The relationship wasn't really healthy. And so when I kind of finally thought, like, even though I was upset, it just felt like the right thing to do. And I thought I was, about to finish school and be on like a new chapter of life, kind of for me as like a young woman. And then I found out I was pregnant. So I was like, ah! So, maybe not everyone, but maybe somebody listening can relate. This is my story. This is not a traditional, like, we're married, we're starting a family, or even we've been in a long-term relationship and are going to have a child. We just broke up, and it's Mardi Gras time, and I'm having the time of my life, and also trying to get over a breakup. And then things are settling down. I'm finishing out school, and I find out I'm supposed to be having a baby. I said, like, could it be worse?
Yeah.
Could it get any worse? Could it? Could there be any more for me to possibly take on and deal with? So, but, strangely enough, as we talk about a lot in Buddhist faith and this practice about, like, turning poison into medicine, which is a phrase for turning what would appear to be bad or unfortunate things into your life into something completely different. And overcoming them is kind of, I feel like, what wound up happening with me. And oddly enough, you know, at this really difficult time in life is when I was pregnant with my son. I feel like aside from maybe right now, like the last year, is the other time that I feel like my practice was probably the strongest. And I was like the most involved because I had so much that I was struggling with that I was like, I have to win. I have to overcome it. But I went to the district or neighborhood meetings, you know, a lot during that time, and all the members were very supportive of me, always. It was a source of like encouragement and, you know, strength for me, because it's like the other members have such a way of by having the utmost of confidence and faith in you. And, you know, something that we talk about, you're supposed to have for yourself and for others. So really you are supposed to have it for yourself, but, you know, we're not perfect. So you don't always feel like you have all the confidence. And the way they would just tell me, oh, this is going to be great. This is excellent. You know, you're going to be just the best mom ever. This is going to be a perfect, happy, safe delivery. It's already done. It's already decided.
Yes. It's amazing. Like, yeah, there have been so many times in my life, especially like in my early 20s, when I'm like still just like, I don't know, like building up who I am and like figuring all of that out, that other like Buddhist friends that just like had no doubt, you know, in like the capacity of my life and the possibility when I didn't really think that was possible. And so I think having people like that in our lives that very sincerely, it's not just like being nice, right? Like it's a very sincere, deep belief. And when you have people like that in your life, it starts to feel like, well, maybe this is true, you know? Like, I trust these people. Yeah. Like, it's got to be true. I know that they're not lying to me, so I know that it's something about my life where I'm the one that's not seeing that. So
yes.
Anyway, thank you for like sharing that so openly. So as you're starting to maybe, you know, get this encouragement and feel like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. What was it like after your son came and you started working after 5 months? Like,
yes. So my son came 1 week early, which is still considered, you know, full term. I remember that his father was going to bring his other son to school, and I told them to wait for me in the car. I realized that my water broke. I was like, just in case, you know, I'll be at home by myself in case I need him to bring me to the hospital. And he's like, what is going on? I said, I think it's time to have the baby. And he was like, oh my God, what, do we need to go to the hospital now? I said, no, I think I'm okay. I'm not in any pain or anything, but probably soon, you know, so we'll drop him off at school. And so basically what happened, and part of why I was so chill, was that I wasn't having any contractions, even though my water broke, which can happen, but isn't always typical. I had the idea that I was going to have a natural birth and all of this stuff, and I didn't want to be induced. I wound up having to be induced because it was time to have the baby, medical reasons and all. And so I was in a lot of pain, and I was in labor pain for like 5.5 hours, and then found out that things were still not moving the way they were supposed to. And I was no closer to having my baby than when that morning, no closer, like nothing had changed. So then I was like, okay, I need the epidural now. And also speaking to like health related things, I really respect and appreciate that there's always in this practice a certain like understanding and respect for medicine and for doctors. And we kind of combine our spirituality with that rather than say one or the other. So it's been put to me like not to just chant for the best possible outcome or that the surgery is going to go well, but to chant that your specific doctor is going to have a clear mind and that he can perform the best surgery and, you know, do the best. And so, like, I had to wait another half an hour for the anesthesiologist. Then I'm there into the night. I still haven't had my baby. They say, okay, prep the OR. Prep the OR? Prep the OR? I felt like I'm on Grey's Anatomy. What's going on here? But what else is crazy is earlier in the afternoon, when things still weren't moving along, I asked if I was going to have a C-section. It's like I knew, you know?
Yeah.
And he said, well, you know, one thing at a time. Well, it came to the point that I had to have an emergency C-section because things were still not moving along. So more time passed, we risked like infection to the baby. So they said, okay, we need to have the baby now. But everything went totally fine with that. Happy, healthy baby delivered. All is well. The end.
Ba-boom!
Not. That I go home with a newborn and a boyfriend who's, you know, doesn't have like a typical 9-to-5 job where he can take paternity leave or anything. So I'm mostly just at home trying to recover from a major surgery with an infant and not in the happiest of relationships. Yeah. So it was an extremely, sometimes awful time for me, to be honest. But it was also filled with like a lot of good memories, you know, of my son as a baby, you know, growing up, some of my family that could really coming over and supporting and offering to help me, and other members, Buddhist members that came to see him and see me and like bring me things for him and offer to help me with him. So I really appreciated that. I think when you have a child, you want better for your child than for yourself, and you have such respect and appreciation for them and for their life. And that is kind of a mirror to like how we should view our lives anyways, right? Regardless of if this child is there or not. And my mom, she used to tell me, you don't get any gold stars for sticking around in a bad situation or horrible situation. When you're ready, you leave that situation and, you know, basically want better for yourself and for your son. At first, it was really difficult separating from his dad, and to kind of like fast forward just a little bit, we separated before my son turned 2. He was still 1. And this is when I was also getting really tired of working for the company that I was working for in EMS and kind of wanting more, and then revisited this idea of joining the fire department. And I had always kind of pushed that part back because it just didn't really seem like an option for me. It didn't really quite seem possible. And it was kind of put to me one day of like, why do you think that? Like, why not? And, you know, also imagine at this point, this is even more out there to me. Does I have a 1-year-old, I'm newly separated, trying to just kind of figure it out. I'm like 24 years old. Like, what am I doing? What do you mean? Yeah. Just go for your dream. Okay.
Like, hello?
I guess. So I had moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with my son. After I stayed with family for a little while, things were still very chaotic with his dad and trying to co-parent. And this is also when I got news of my application and being accepted to take agility test for the fire department. So like, oh wow, gosh, challenges but wins. Yay.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, this is so great. You know, all the other Buddhists knew about it. Okay, we're chanting for you. This is going to go great. I do it. I'm like, this is my opportunity. I do this obstacle course and I don't do it fast enough. And they're like, sorry, you got to go home. Thanks for coming. You can see us again in 3 months. So I obviously go to my car and then like boohoo the entire way home because I'm like, it's ruined. it's ruined. I don't want to be on this ambulance anymore. I'm trying to take care of like a 2-year-old. Like, I'm just miserable. I just want this one thing. I just want this. Like, why can't I? And I told some of the other Buddhists, and immediately they were just like, oh, okay, it's no problem. So what's the date you can take it again? They just, no. How long? 3 months? Oh, plenty of time. You just prepare for the next one. Don't worry, you're going to pass it the next time. This was just like a fluke. You got the next one. We know it. We're chanting for you. Okay. So, I just tried to have that attitude. And I went back 3 months later. And this is another thing of like, the obstacles, the challenges, is I'm going to take this test, and my nerves, I'm like so anxious. My last name starts with a T. It's Todd. So normally I go last for a lot of stuff, or almost last. And they go, you know what? They're reading the clipboard. We're outside at this obstacle course. Let's switch it up today. Let's start from the bottom. Todd, you're up first. I said, no. Like in a movie, I'm so nervous.
Slow-mo.
And I just remember some of them like, don't worry, you got it. And so I did. So I passed it on the first time. Then, I had to go through all the rest of the obstacles. I passed everything else. Fast forward, I get into the academy. And that was also really a struggle, because it's like Monday through Friday, morning to late afternoon. Some people don't know, so it's a lot of physical things that you have to do, but it's also a lot of book work. There's like certifications that you have to have, like firefighter 1, firefighter 2. They're like state certifications, and hazmat awareness, hazmat operations. So, I'm like, have this book about this thick. I'm sitting here just studying day and night, trying to. I'm exhausted. And then I also am trying to like afford my own place on not much income, and take care of this 2-year-old who doesn't understand that no, I don't want to play with these blocks anymore right now, because I have a state certification test tomorrow and mama needs to pass so we can keep our house.
Mm-hmm.
He's not getting that. What do you mean? Look, it's the blocks. It's block time. So I did pass everything. I made it through. I completed the academy. And, this whole time on and off, I'm chanting. I'm not chanting. I'm chanting. I'm not chanting. I'm chanting for my relationship with my son's father to be better, for a better co-parenting relationship. I'm chanting for my financial karma, and my family. And it just seems like things get worse before they get better. So I make it out of the fire academy, but now I've got to deal with being new on this fire department, and going and meeting and working with all these different personalities. Then days that I have my son, I've got to wake up even earlier, pack his bag, drop him off, get to work somewhere. Then in the midst of this, I've already had to move out of my apartment again, move into another place. And then I'm getting into disagreements with his dad, and we wound up, okay, well now I guess we're going to court. And so this is just so much stuff compounding. But fast forwarding to my benefit of it is that everything that I initially wanted and was chanting for the betterment of my son, and instead of really what I wanted or what his dad wanted, I said, I just want the best possible situation and outcome for him. The final day of court, I didn't even have to go to court. The lawyer spoke on the phone and we pretty much agreed to everything, agreed to a 50-50 custody situation. So I didn't even have to show up to court. And then I had an opportunity to that I was going to have to move again, which wasn't good. But Eventually, a couple places later, my mom said, oh, okay, you can come stay with me. Mind you, I hadn't lived with her since I was 15. So that was a challenge, but a benefit that I really needed somewhere to stay. And I was like in between places, and we were able to go and stay with her. Also, in this time, I got promoted. So from firefighter to operator. So like drive and operate the pump or truck, as she might call it. I was not expecting that promotion because it was pretty early in my career, but I had taken the certification, the test to get my operator certs early, like super early in my career, just because it was offered and I wanted to get it out of the way, but I wasn't really expecting that promotion that early. So I got that, which gave me like a little bit of a bump in pay. But that also happened before my like first like annual raise kind of kicked in, and then a different one that everyone was getting for the city. So everything kind of compounded on each other for my pay to come up a little bit, which was better for me. And I was really getting along better by that point with my son's father. We're not like arguing, cursing each other out, like all of this on the phone anymore. It's just like much more calm. We have a pretty standard like custody agreement. That's not an issue. And then I wound up last year. Right about this time, it was around Christmas time, not of 25, but of 24, I bought my house. And so that was actually, thank you, that was actually the 8th time that I had moved with my son since he was born. Wow. He's 8 years old now. So it was a lot. I'll try not to. I almost cry just about every time I talk about it, because it was just so, it just felt like it would never end. And like every time I tried to think that I was like setting myself up for success or putting us in a better position, it just didn't work out. And it's really hard, I think it gets to me because, because he's my son and I care about him. And I know it's really hard for people, but especially kids, to have a sense of like normalcy and stability when you're always having to, to move around. But, now I was able to make that happen. So now we have that.
Yeah. And he has that example, right, of like a parent showing, even when life is really intense and there's so many things going on, if you persist, you can make it there. And I feel like that kind of example, like growing up with a parent that practiced Buddhism was something that like really impacted me and was an important lesson that I think I learned as a young kid, that that's possible. Another thing I was thinking, and like hearing all of this of just like, fighting, one more thing. I imagine that, you've always been I think strong person, it sounds like, but I can't imagine what it's like working for the fire department, but I imagine it's very stressful and there's a lot going on and you're managing 500 things at once.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, I'm always like kind of humbled or flattered when people use these like really nice words to describe me. Just like anybody else, there's been many times in my head where I'm like, I'm a mess. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you see. But, we sort of see ourselves and like our own emotions differently. But I definitely feel more that way now. I didn't always, but I also feel like it has positively spilled over into so many other parts of my life. Like sometimes you have to see or go through these like really horrible things to really be able to appreciate better times and better things and what it takes to achieve those. And for me, even though I was in such a toxic and unhealthy relationship, it really helped in the end for me to change my view and appreciation for myself and my life. And to say, like, you kind of have to practice what you preach. Like, do you really value your own life, because it's kind of like you're saying it, but you don't believe it. If you value your life, then you go where you're valued. And so for me, like relationship wise, that eventually spilled over. So like me solidifying my practice and my chanting and my belief and confidence in myself is that now it's really not so difficult. You know, if I am dating or talking to somebody and I don't feel that they really value or respect me, well, that doesn't really align with me, because I have that, you know, from this practice. And it's also, in turn, having that for other people, and this belief that, like, everybody's life has value. It doesn't mean that everybody is always, like, the best person, but their life has value. They have their own struggles and things to overcome, and really having compassion for them. And so I think that that's the other major thing that has kind of spilled over into my life, both from like my son's father, my relationship after that, when I really learned to like let go of the anger that I had towards them, and while still operating in a way that's respectful to my life, but have compassion for them. And like when I'm at work, compassion for other people that I deal with the public, that, you know, sometimes this is like a really difficult time, a difficult thing that they're going through, whether it's like fire related or a medical emergency. And when we really shift our perspective, I think, to having compassion for other people's life and respecting their life, no matter what, it's just like, once you understand that, it's easier. It's not that hard to do.
Yeah, I think for me too, like, if I'm having, like, I don't know, trouble with like a friend or a coworker or whatever, and maybe in that moment I'm like, oh my God, I cannot, like, I'm just really pissed off or whatever. When I chant about it, knowing like the values of Buddhism are to treasure and respect everybody's life, I can chant with that, like, even like, this person is like making me so upset, and how could I still like really value their life and have compassion for them? And through chanting, like, it really does change your heart. And it's something that I think, people that practice Buddhism totally get. But if you haven't before, it can be, I think, a little bit hard to conceptualize. Like, sometimes our mind can get there. Like, oh yeah, intellectually I agree with that. But then when it comes to the reality of everyday life, it's hard to actually change your behavior and change the way that you think about somebody or speak to them. I wonder what you would say to this. Many people are living lives where they're balancing lots of things and the pressure is really hard. And they can intellectually know, like, okay, I should be able to push through this, but like to actually be able to do it and like do it with a sense of like hope or determination, I think is the challenging part, to really be able to muster that up. So I guess maybe my question in all of that is, as you were going through, this career, relationship, housing, battle, what role did chanting play in terms of like your ability to like keep going, to shift your perspective? What kinds of things did it give you?
It's grounding, it's calming, but it's not always easy. But that's kind of the beauty of it. Like, there's always an opportunity to learn something else, to change something else, to have your own human revolution, as we might call it, or your own transformation of like your heart and yourself and what you want to bring to the world. So I don't know that it's really much more complicated other than chanting and studying and learning more about this practice and just applying it to my life. But it hasn't always been very consistent for me, and that has had its own challenges. One thing that is unexpectedly challenging is the amount of accountability that you have to take for your own life. And so that is really hard to gather at first. That if I tell you that by chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo and just having your own inner transformation, the way you see yourself, the way you see other people, your actions, the things you do, if I tell you that you have the power to change all of that into whatever you want it to be, well, that also means that you hold the power and it's not changed right now, so it's on you. And people don't like to hear that. I don't like to hear it. What do you mean? Like, but you know, you have your own lessons, you have your own thing. If you want some benefits here, if you want to change things, then you're gonna have to do it. You know,
I have had the tendency, and I think it's probably common, to like feel like a victim of my circumstances. You know, like, why is this thing happening to me?
I told somebody about that at a meeting. I said that, like, the gist of what I said was that, like, that feeling, just so you know, I said, I don't know what meetings you've been attending, what gatherings you've been to, but I've never heard anybody say bad Buddhist. It's not a thing. I think that some of that guilt and all comes from the fact that we know that it's good for us and it's good for our life, and we're not doing it. So like when you're indulging in things that aren't good for you and you feel bad because you know it's not good for you. So it's like, you know, it's like you knowing that you have this good thing and you're not using it. You're like, oh man, I really could have used that. But you know, that's another great thing about this practice is every day and every moment is an opportunity. You can't drive with your hand on the rear view mirror. There is no such thing as, I didn't do it yesterday, I didn't do it this morning, so I can't do it now. It's literally this very moment, every moment is a new opportunity.
I'm always like taken aback, I guess, every time I realize that for my own life or with other people, that all it takes is one shift, one moment of determination or deciding something, and then everything pivoting. It's hard to believe that because I think, you know, in daily life we don't think that that's possible, or like I should say in like larger society, you know, we don't think that we actually have that kind of power. But even just a few days ago, I remember chanting about something and realizing like, wow, I don't know if I really believe that, you know, my chanting can make this change happen. And so I started chanting more like seriously and intensely, and I was like, I want to see results, you know, like I really need to believe this.
Don't chant about it like it's a question.
Yes.
Like, hey, can I maybe, if you could, hey, it would be really nice if you could. That's not, no.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Somebody told me before, a Buddhist friend, I think it was something I was trying to come up with the money for, and then it was also like plans for what school my son was going to go to, because me and his father had disagreements. We hadn't come to a firm conclusion about that, and I was really concerned about it. And when he was talking like, well, what about this? What about that? You know, and I said, well, I don't really know if that's an option. And he said, no, I didn't ask that. Like, what do you want? Like, what do you really want? What do you think is best? And I said, but I don't really understand how that could. And he's like, stop. You don't. And I repeat this. It's got to be weekly now. I said it the other time at a gathering with some young women. I said, I don't know how many times I got to repeat myself to y'all about this. I said, you don't have to know how it's going to happen. You just have to decide that it's going to. But it's not even really a blind faith thing as it might sound to some people. What it means is it's like you are opening up yourself and your life to infinite possibilities, because this is what you want to happen. So basically, you're not all knowing. Like, you don't know what could possibly come into play or what chain of events can happen so that this goal can come to fruition for you. You don't know all those different things that can play out in order for it to happen. But you can decide it's gonna happen.
I think I so often, limit by what I think is possible, because I'm just thinking about how it can happen, to your point. But like getting that out of my mind and just focusing on this thing is going to happen. And, you know, even like the couple of days ago that I like had that switch in the way I was chanting, actually, and it doesn't always happen this way, but like literally a couple hours later, like something happened and I was like, wow, that is definitely a result of me chanting that way. You know, I can see I was chanting, I need to see this actual proof, and like, well, okay, wow, I'm reminded again that my chanting really does work. But it can be easy, right? Like in daily life to kind of lose track of that or not believe in ourselves, not believe that things are possible. But I think that's why, you know, something like Buddhability is so incredible and encouraging, because we get to hear other people breaking through things that maybe seemed impossible at the time. So, and like your story is
I love
so
this
incredible.
Show. I told you, you're my little driving soundtrack.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think maybe to like ask sort of a rounding out question, as you know, because you listen, I always ask for a piece of advice at the end of a, you know, conversation. So as we've talked about at length, you are a parent, you are working full-time and also part-time, and you're in school studying, and you just bought a home. It's a lot. So for people listening that maybe have a lot going on in their lives, what advice would you give them about how they can pursue their dreams also while fulfilling all of the other responsibilities in their life that might not be that number one dream?
Is it too simple to just say, just chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo?